Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blue Venture Forum, Blue Ventures. This week, we interview Jeff Smith from SAAB, where he discusses SAAB's new facility located in Cranston, Rhode Island, tips for starting a blue tech startup, and more. We want to thank our sponsors, the Van Buren Charitable Foundation, SAAB, DTN Ventures, the City of Newport, Dartmouth Ocean Technologies, and the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Blue Ventures, brought to you by the Blue Venture Forum. My name is Toby Stapleton. I'm currently serving as the chair of the forum, which was created to support and grow blue technology companies. And we want to thank our sponsors, the Van Buren Charitable Foundation, DTN Ventures, Dartmouth Ocean Technologies, the City of Newport, Rhode Island, and SAAB. We also work closely with the Greater Newport Chamber of Commerce, and we are based at Innovate Newport, a technology incubator located in the city of Newport, Rhode Island. The goal of these programs is to educate the community about opportunities and innovation that are taking place within the industry. And you can learn more by going to blueventureforum.org. Today, we're pleased to welcome Jeff Smith, the VP and General Manager for Autonomous and Undersea Systems at SAAB. Prior to joining SAAB, he served as the chief scientist for UUV systems at BAE Systems Fast Labs and was the president and founder of Riptide Autonomous Solutions. He spent a career supporting the U.S. Navy through industry roles at General Dynamics, Bluefin Robotics, Riptide, BAE, and now with SAAB. We're pleased to have him as our inaugural guest for this programming series, not only because of his incredible background and experience, but also because SAAB recently made headlines by announcing a new production facility in Cranston, Rhode Island. With that, we'll welcome Jeff. Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Toby. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about today, but let's start by telling us about this new facility in Cranston. What's the focus of the facility and why Cranston, Rhode Island?
I guess it goes back to, one of the reasons SAAB brought me in was to really help expand a U.S. footprint for our autonomous undersea vehicles here in the States, supporting our Navy customer. What was great about Cranston for us was combination of things. It's got really close customer proximity with Newark. We have a key partner company there, SciQuest, that we're working with. And with SciQuest, they have an established facility there for acoustic targets, and subsea acoustics. So we have access to a lot of the heavy investment, the tanks, the pressure vessels, all those things we need to get us going with a reasonably limited investment up front as we expand out our space in Cranston and the New England area, greater New England area.
That's
so
great.
The focus will really be, our first product that we're really focused on in the States is AUV 62. It's our 21-inch UUV built from a Swedish, initially a torpedo, but it's a widely used, internationally sold ASW training target.
That's great. In fact, that was my next question. What is SAAB's Autonomous and Undersea Systems division, and what are the products that you offer?
So the beauty about SAAB, and one of the things that got me here was, between our groups in Sweden and in the UK, we have a really extensive undersea vehicle portfolio between AUVs, ROVs, some unmanned surface vehicles, mostly preliminary prototype capabilities, and then a host of autonomy capabilities. So when you look at the U.S. Autonomous and Undersea Systems Group, our focus is really, three areas of platform between AUVs, ROVs, and USVs, and then also an autonomy play that we're making for, primarily focused, obviously, on maritime autonomy. But the real focus is on the maritime vehicle platforms. And with SAAB, in Sweden, AUV 62 is a longstanding product that's used in many international navies. We have systems like the Double Eagle. Sabertooth just got a whole lot of attention. You probably saw a couple weeks back where two vehicles were used to find Ernest Shackleton's Endurance platform. And then in the UK, we have the CI division that's really heavily focused on commercial ROV capabilities. So all of those products really come into play for, how can we apply them to the U.S. market? How can we leverage them for, existing capabilities, commercial off-the-shelf capabilities for the U.S. military, or modify those platforms and use those platforms as a foundation to move into new systems, or with the team we're standing up here, really, how do we start new development capabilities here in the States?
That's great. And what are the markets that you serve today?
So SAAB's focus definitely is more military. So in the U.S. space, our focus primarily U.S. Navy and U.S. government customers. We do, I mentioned CI in the UK. CI is definitely a commercial ROV focused company, heavily on oil and gas, offshore energy, that market space. SAAB is, one of the things I liked about SAAB coming in was, even though they're a defense, primarily a defense powerhouse, they work heavily in the commercial space and really across a couple different markets. And with the way sort of subsea is set up, it's a lot of, as dual use capabilities, and we'll sell vehicles where it makes sense to sell vehicles.
That's and within the military market, within the Navy, do you see any use cases, the SAAB vehicles being used in anti-submarine warfare more than mine interdiction, or where do you see the mix of use within the Navy today?
Yeah, so our one of the it was kind of the challenge that they brought me in for was what vehicles make the most sense for us to sell into the U.S. Navy. And when we kind of took a step back, it's we have a really large portfolio of vehicles. CWASP for mine neutralization, Double Eagle with the dam deck neutralization device, AUV-62 with a mine reconnaissance payload, AUV-62 with an ASW training target payload. So there's lots of just different capabilities that we can apply. And so, the first thing that SAAB lined up some time ago was through a foreign comparative test with the U.S. Navy. They did a FCT, foreign comparative test, of AUV-62 ATs. So really looking at the Mark 30 program and where that program was going longer term, and how we get both larger recoverable ASW training targets and torpedo targets out there to train the sailors. So that was really where SAAB had a really good niche with a vehicle that was well established and sold internationally as a leading training target, ASW training target. So that was really the first core program of record that they wanted me to focus on, was around that platform and how that's a priority for us. But that we see really as a springboard into a lot of other opportunities here in the States, with a pretty established set of product portfolio.
That's great. And one of the things I want to ask is about you, Jeff Smith. You seem to be uniquely qualified to head up this effort, because you've worked both for the large players, the General Dynamics, the Bluefins, and BAE Systems, as well as been a founder, essentially the founder of a startup in blue tech. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to SAAB in the first place.
So it seems I've meandered around some and haven't been able to hold a job too long, but I guess the reality is, I started my career almost 30 years ago, and I spent about half that time, 15 years, with General Dynamics, doing mostly submarine systems that are both on board of a U.S. submarine and on subsea type capabilities. I did some ROV handling systems early days as well. From that, I jumped over to Bluefin Robotics, where I ran programs, and then ultimately became the chief operating officer at Bluefin, and obviously focused on AUVs there. I guess it was about 7 years ago, I guess now, that I basically, it was the right time to exit Bluefin and sort of go out on my own and see what I could do. So we started Riptide in my kitchen on a credit card when we saw a niche in the market for small, low-cost UUVs. We were successful for several years, and eventually transitioned to an acquisition with BAE Systems, which was great. So, and then I guess it was about 9 months ago or so, I was looking to really, what was sort of next. And we were me and one partner were talking about starting a new vehicle, autonomous vehicle company, and trying to figure out what the right market space was when SAAB started calling us both. And when we really saw what SAAB was looking to do, it was sort of the best of everything. It was, a lot of, a full product portfolio that we didn't need to develop from scratch. But they really wanted, a new company, a new division, stand up a team, stand up a factory, stand up a production capability, transition production from Sweden into the US, depending on what the system is. And we didn't need to go find a new investor, which was always, takes a lot of pressure off. I think I made my wife a lot happier with having a real job and not having to worry about payroll. So it was, it just seemed to be the right thing at the right time to, end up where we are.
That's it. Yeah. And so that's a great background, and leads me to the question, what is the most important thing that you learned in building a startup in general? And then what's the most important thing that you learned building a blue tech startup?
There's a lot. I get, two things are, one thing is just persistence. You just got to keep going. And it's hard at certain times, especially, worrying about payroll and doing those kinds of things, and, trying to really get something started without having obviously established contracts, starting a new product, all those things that come together at the same time, where you're trying to get something out the door that takes some money to get started without necessarily having money, get investors, get employees that are capable and smart and that can really contribute to you moving forward. Lining up the customers, lining up the sales, and doing all that kind of together. And it's, it can be definitely overwhelming at times. And you just, every day you gotta get up and keep moving ahead. I guess the other thing that I kind of learned along the way was, just because you think it has value doesn't mean it does, right? Ultimately, it's the customer that ends up buying these things, and they need to really, determine what they're going to get, and you need to satisfy a demand in the space. There's a lot of people I kind of have seen in the space that, if it's kind of like they think they have the next biggest mouse, the next best mousetrap. It's, it's not really that if it's, if you're pushing it versus somebody's pulling it. So you really need to have an established pull in the space to really help you get to where you need to be, because it's hard. It's one thing to come up with something, it's another to convince somebody they really need to buy it. If there's a market demand there, then that definitely makes things a whole lot easier to get things where they need to be.
Right. Well, I'm sure that experience pulls into what you're doing now at SAAB, that, so I'm sure, maybe posing this as a question, is it demonstrations that are important? Is, how do you actually get the Navy or other customers to, look at you as a solution to whatever problem that they're trying to solve?
So one of my former mentors was, he was big on, I'm from Missouri, show me. And I learned a lot from him over the years, but it's hard to sort of come up with a development capability, take it out to a customer and have it, it's the first one that you're making, presumably, especially when you're in a startup, where you're taking something out, you haven't run it enough, you probably don't have enough time on it, but at the same time, you need to generate interest and generate sales. So you're out there kind of showing what it can do. And it can quickly develop, and that spiral from show it, get the feedback from the customer, fold that in, do it again. That's if you do that right, you can do that pretty fast. And the customer sees how quickly things can be modified, and that in turn can generate a lot of interest and a lot of buzz. It's the space I'm in right now with SAAB. It's a different animal, because we look at the Ernest Shackleton expedition a couple of weeks ago. Right now I'm waiting for my first vehicle from Sweden so I can go run demos with it for some of the US customers. But at the same time, we're fortunate in that we have vehicles right now globally with an extensive customer base that are out doing real things with them and proving the capabilities work. So things like that, you can't pay enough to get that kind of marketing.
Right. Well, I'm sure the Shackleton, that must have generated a lot of free publicity for the company and interest. I'm sure that you've gotten potential commercial users and researchers from across the board now looking at SAAB's products. So that I can't imagine that was bad in terms of publicity for the company. That must have been really great.
And the timing was perfect too. It happened the week before the Oceanology show over in the UK.
Right.
Sea Air Space just happened down in DC last week. It's just, the timing was really good to have such a great success with two vehicles that were, as they I think publicly have said, it's the hardest survey that's been done. It's, with where that was under ice, right. 3,000 meters of water, 10,000 feet. It's an incredible, difficult task. And, frankly, it's not the first time they've been there looking for it, right? They've lost other
right.
vehicles that were very capable at that same location. So it's, it's nice to have that success.
Right. Yeah, no, I can imagine. And getting back to the Cranston facility that talking about being close to the customer, you have Naval Station Newport, you've got the Naval Undersea Warfare Center, and you're in close proximity to a number of research institutions that have schools of oceanography in striking distance, including the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution fairly close to Rhode Island. In terms of workforce, as you expand that facility in Cranston, do you see pulling from the existing workforce that whether it's engineers or business development talent who are currently in the region? Do you see that as an advantage, or do you see pulling in from outside the region for engineers, BD, sales folks, and others?
I think it's really a combination of it all. I mean, obviously, the world we live in today is a whole lot different than it was a couple of years ago before the pandemic. So we right now, in a reasonably small team that we've stood up for the division, I'm in Quincy, Mass. One of my primary technical co-founders that right next door here, 5 miles up the road. Our lead software is currently in DC, but she's moving to North Carolina. We just picked up a systems engineer from Texas area. We have another guy down in DC. We have a business development lead out in San Diego. And, that's right now, that's the extent of our division. Yeah. But we get together, remarkably frequently between travel in the UK, Sweden, DC area. So it's that's, works out really well. At the same time, we're building a production facility, obviously, in Cranston. So you need, at the end of the day, you need talent that's there on site putting vehicles together. So obviously, a lot of that talent we expect to come from directly that Rhode Island area. Probably not too much from outside of there. I mean, Rhode Island's a small state, so you can definitely draw from Massachusetts and Connecticut. But as we expand, sort of, grow our footprint, grow our division, we anticipate we'll probably open an office in the Boston area. Just, there's a lot obviously here, and that's the whole coast from, Maine all the way through Connecticut. This New England area is really the center of gravity for, what we do in the blue tech space and the ocean robotics. So it's, there's a lot of talent here, a lot of good schools, a lot of good, companies that are doing this work that, we can draw resources from. That's great.
Yeah. And I'm sure, SAAB coming into Cranston is going to, not only leverage the market, but also that workforce and the schools that are putting out talented engineers, software developers, and even oceanographers that are coming out of schools like the University of Rhode Island, the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, UI, and beyond. So that's interesting. And as one question I have, was SAAB always open to a virtual workforce, or was it COVID-19 that moved the company into being more accepting about virtual work?
I think with everybody, COVID really opened up the eyes for folks on how this really has to work in this new, this new market. When I actually hired in, they said, your choices for, your home office are Syracuse, New York, or West Lafayette, Indiana. Where do you want to start your maritime company? And I had a really good talk with Eric Smith, who actually happens to be a Rhode Island guy. And I said, maritime really needs to be on the, more on the water than either of those places. So we ended up having a lot of discussion about what made sense for our first facility, for the capabilities that we need. And I'll shout out to Rhode Island. I don't know another state that puts as much effort as they do into helping businesses grow and start in the state, and kudos to them. It's one of the reasons we are where we are.
Right. Yeah. And the blue economy and blue technology specifically is a focus of the state. As you know, the Blue Innovation Symposium, which was a face-to-face, is the largest blue tech conference in New England and took place face-to-face in February of this year, 2022. The state was a sponsor of it specifically because they're looking to encourage more blue technology companies to locate here and to foster the existing industry that calls Rhode Island home because of all those assets that are here. It's not just the Navy, but it's also those research institutions and trying to encourage more startups and scale-up companies to locate here in the state. And so great. Any final thoughts, Jeff, about about building a successful blue tech company or your work with SAAB?
At this point, I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. It's since I've been on 8 months, it's always fun to you really need to find a job that you love doing. And in this case, I feel like I'm working for a great company. I'm having a lot of fun every day. I'm getting to do what I love. I get to work with products that I love, and exploring a space that is really right now, sort of the next big thing with the blue tech and where everything's going. So I'm looking forward to continuing this for, taking it where it can go, working partnerships with a lot of the local companies and, bringing new capabilities forward.
Great. Yeah. And Jeff, as you mentioned, one of the things that we've seen over the last 2 years is more companies have gotten comfortable with working virtually. But one of the, one of the things that brings this industry together historically has been trade shows. And now, as we get past COVID-19, we're seeing shows start to come back online, and whether it's Oceanology or the Blue Innovation Symposium and beyond. We look forward to seeing you and SAAB at upcoming conferences in 2022 and getting to know more about what you're doing in Cranston. And thanks again for the support of the Blue Venture Forum and for being our first guest of Blue Ventures. So we look forward to catching up again soon. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Toby. It was a pleasure.